the worst thing was that for large portions of it, they played better than us, and they're the bottom of the league, cut adrift. So that was quite worrying.
We called for team fun in the preview and we got team boredom, didn't we? We created the square root of naff all in open play yesterday. 0.25 XG in open play yesterday. A quarter of a goal. It's just not great.
Actually connecting that midfield to the attack, the quality's not really there unless Clark is having one of his better days.
I don't know what Premier League we signed in for, but I'm not even sure he's getting a game in the Welsh Premier League right now. What's the point in that? I'll say it again. Can we please ditch this "you're not fit to wear the shirt" song? It serves no purpose.
I get the impression that Wilshere is a little bit conflicted at the moment because I think he would like to take more risks. But at the same time, I think they're going to look even more exposed.
Stick him up front, Jimbo. Here is the campaign, right? So we can't keep clean sheets for toffee. Put him up front.
I'm really sorry, Kev, but I won't be signing that petition.
I'll talk you around after we've stopped.
He's one of the few players, I think, who has shown a reaction to the crowd being slightly negative.
Cristiano Bramall sticking it in the top bins.
Ronaldo, better?
Or yeah, Ronaldo, yeah. I'm all right with that,
yes.
Yeah.
That. Let's have it.
I tell you're an author. The Town dropped 2 points at home to rock bottom Port Vale on Saturday afternoon in another game of football that's not going to live too long in the memory. Alongside me to look back on it is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and Town fan and local author Tom Caldon. Gents, were you ready to relive that?
Can't wait.
I'm glad he's here.
So am I, yeah. And we'll explain exactly why right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast. This season the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're looking back at Luton Town 2, Port Vale 2. In isolation, I suppose not the worst game of football, but certainly not the result anyone wanted. And alongside me, as I said, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and Town fan and local author Tom Caldon to go through it all. Tom, as you're the guest, we'll come to you first. What do you make of the whole situation, where the Town are at the moment?
Where to start? There's a lack of cohesion across the team at the moment, unfortunately, and clearly a lack of confidence. James, I thought your instant reaction piece was brilliant yesterday, and I think to some extent Wilshere has to save face and at least project this image of being confident and having belief in the players. Unfortunately, I don't think he really believes in this squad at the moment.
How do you see it, Jimbo?
Well, we can have more guests on that flatter me straight up. We could do that. That'd be fantastic. But
cash did get exchanged before we started rolling the cameras.
I think that he's having to work with what he's got at the moment. I'm not sure he knows what his best 11 is. It certainly isn't that one that played yesterday, but we were talking about that in the preview, that we didn't want to see half of that team sheet. And when it did come out, I think a fair few hearts sank a little bit. I mean, the worst thing for me yesterday is not, it's bad enough conceding goals against a team that hadn't scored them in the league for 9+ hours. But the worst thing was that for large portions of it, they played better than us, and they're the bottom of the league, cut adrift. So that was quite worrying.
It was, yeah. There was lots of things to worry about yesterday, wasn't there? I mean, we called for team fun in the preview, and we got team boredom, didn't we? And it's like,
are they listening to us?
Well, they're clearly not, are they? Because the same old problems presented themselves again. Okay, it was a back four, but it still had 4 centre-halves in that back four. They all passed to each other very, very slowly. The opposition get into positions where they want to be, and by the time we do get the ball forward, there's 2 men around, the danger men, and we end up going nowhere again. We created the square root of naff all in open play yesterday. 0.25 XG in open play yesterday. A quarter of a goal. It's It's just not great. And it's a movie that we've seen time and time again. And actually, a lot of people said to me before the game, if Matt Bloomfield had chosen that team yesterday, he'd have been getting absolute pelters for it. And it's hard to argue, really.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I wouldn't put it all on Jack at the moment. He's, like I say, having to work with what he got, and everybody's, I suppose, looking towards the transfer window in January, which is going to be one solution, but it's not going to be the total solution. It's not going to sort it all out, I don't think, unless they do reams and reams of business. I know they did quite a bit in the January last season, but we'll wait and see on that. But yeah, I agree that it felt like a sort of back to square one sort of a game, that one, where, we have talked up some of the good things. And there is still actually a positive, but it's not what anyone wants to look. It's that you can fight to the end and get something out of playing absolutely terrible. That's the one of them. But that's not reading the room. That's not what everybody's thinking, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, two changes, we should say. Mads Anderson came into the side from the start, and Millie Ali also came into the side from the start. It was so bad the other night, I can't remember who they came in for. Fanny and Yates they came in for. I think most people wanted to see Nordos up front. Didn't happen. I think most people wanted to see Chris Makosso at the back. Didn't happen. I think most people wanted to see that central midfield partnership split up. Didn't happen. And when those three didn't happen, he's referenced the Rotherham game a few times, Tom, about how it was all slowly, not really doing anything. And you looked at that team sheet and you thought, we've just picked the same structure and team that we had against Rotherham and learnt nothing.
Well, I would settle for us deciding whether we are going to play 4 or 5 at the back. I know we like to be tactically versatile, but to me, it seems like we're thinking a little too deeply about what the opposition bring into the game, and not enough about actually solidifying our structure, thinking, right, we're a team that plays either 4 or 5 at the back and building from there. It seems like there's not enough consistency in terms of the structure. And then that translates into there not being any sort of familiar or frequent patterns of play. And these players aren't building partnerships together. So I think that's where it starts. I think that's how we can rebuild. But there are so many things that need to change. It's difficult to actually pinpoint one at a time.
It is, yeah. So much of yesterday, Jimbo, that doesn't work. We've seen before, Longwake playing right wing back, it doesn't work. The 2 central midfielders, they don't work. The 3 centre backs passing to each other. The number 9 who's got no height it was Jacob Brown who started at 9. It was Wells who came on in the second half. He might as well have started you or me instead of Jacob Brown. I don't know what Premier League we signed him for, but I'm not even sure he's getting a game in the Welsh Premier League right now. It's just, what's the point in that? I've pleaded with it in the last 2 podcasts. Show us some Premier League quality that we supposedly signed you for. We cut him some slack in previous podcast because he was playing out wide and he's never a wide man in a month of Sundays. But that's not the case yesterday. He was as through the middle as you could possibly be. Balls were going into him yesterday. But they were bounced. Every second touch was a tackle. It's just, how are we supposed to get up the pitch?
Well, he didn't play well. I don't think it's his strength or his strong suit to be receiving those balls onto his chest with the defender or the centre-half tight to his back. Ideally, you want to try to play him in behind. Does he have the pace to do that anymore? I'm not sure. But I don't think we were feeding him with quality. I know the balls were being played into him, but we've been saying this all season, haven't we? Actually connecting that midfield to the attack, the quality's not really there unless Clark is having one of his better days.
He wasn't in the team either. I think that was something that a lot of people picked up on. And I don't genuinely know how we expected to break this team down yesterday because, like I said, we saw it against Rotherham. It's slow. They get back into position. Actually, to be fair to Port Vale, they came and played. I don't know if they came to play as a tactic or they realised that we were going nowhere fast and thought, well, if we don't get after them, we're going to regret it, sort of thing. But we never even looked at the goal in open play, really. I mean, keeper's made a save from Naismith's header, was on the edge of the box. If he scores from there, good luck to him. He's saved a P-roller from Kadir again. If that goes past him, you're asking questions. I think the only other shot that was within the Vegas vicinity was that crazy acrobatic bicycle kick or whatever that Nordos tried in injury time. Apart from that, the 2 goals is all we've got. And now the first goal is an absolute peach. Never a free kick in a month of Sundays, but once it's been given, I seem to recall not so long ago where you were telling me he would never score a free kick like that ever again. And he's done it twice since then. I mean...
so that was before Stockport.
Yeah, this was after Barnet, wasn't it?
I did. I thought that he never would ever score another banger like that again, and now it turns out he's a free kick goat.
And they're getting better. They're not just scoring them; they're more postage stamp than they started off at as well. I mean, it was like the Huddersfield free kick, wasn't it? If he'd said to the goalie, "This is where it's going," still couldn't have saved it.
Yeah, it was inch perfect, wasn't it? It looks absolutely fantastic. It's great that he's got that in his locker, because if we're not going to create any chances from open play, just get near enough and take a dive, fall over, get tripped, and then see what Cohen Bramall can do. Because it was a great one. I thought he'd never score another one like that, but he's clearly better than Cristiano Ronaldo at that technique, because he can actually repeat the trick. So fair play to him. And actually, Cohen Bramall for the entire game was head and shoulders the best player for Luton. The amount of runs he made, all on his own, head down, determined, trying to force something, and crosses into the box where no one read it, is that's pretty bad from the rest of the team not to be in there trying to get anything on the end of his crosses, because he was the only one really trying to force the issue.
And this is my criticism of Brown. You're in the team as a tall striker to get on the end of crosses. Okay, some of his hold-up play I wasn't particularly enamoured with, but at least get yourself on the end of some of these crosses. You cannot criticise the crosses that came in. They were all in of an area where I'd expect them to be attacked, but there was just no bugger there to attack them.
Absolutely. That's been the problem all season, isn't it? The centre-forward not being between the posts when Bramall or either of the wide players have been crossing it into the box. And I don't know whether that just speaks of a lack of understanding across the whole team, that the striker doesn't know when that cross is going to be delivered, or if it's just simply poor positioning. We've heard in the past, haven't we, about Harford advising Elijah when to be between the posts and where to be in the perfect position. I think we could do a little bit of his nous at the moment, although I don't know how much that would help the current crop.
Can't do any worse, can it? I mean, that's the thing. Strikers aren't even having chances to score. And then it comes back to haunt us, Jimbo, that we get into these good positions, nothing comes of them, and we can't keep a clean sheet. And how many times have I referenced since the Forest Green game, stop giving stupid free kicks away because you can't defend the bloody things. So guess what? Ali ploughs into the guy who was going absolutely nowhere on the sidelines. Just stand him up. He's only going to pass it back. You know he is, because all of your teammates do it in the same situation. Just stand him up and let him go back. We get to half-time 1-0, we regroup, but no. We've got 4 centre-halves on the pitch. Not saying that they're all playing centre-half, but there's 4 centre-halves on the pitch. Naismith, Mengi, Anderson, Longwake. Yet the tallest geezer gets a free run off, that'll be Jacob Brown again, and heads it in. I mean, how of goals that you can concede against a team who can't score goals, don't give them a leg up.
Yeah, but we do. We do that to everyone. We said it in the preview podcast. Every time a striker needs a goal, we give it to him. Every time a team's gone on a drought, we end it. It's just, there were people in there, no one was surprised. The only people that were surprised were the Port Vale fans. They couldn't believe they'd scored a bloody goal after that amount of time. October the 11th, the last time they scored a league goal, albeit they scored 6 in the previous 2 cup games going into this one. But league-wise, they didn't even know where the barn door was to hit it with a banjo, and we go and give it to them. And that's just it's so bad from us to do that, because we weren't playing great, but Cohen Bramall pulls a perler out like that, and you think, well, that'll do. We can play not great for the rest of this game as long as we've got this and we keep onto it, keep hold of it, because they haven't been able to score. But to give them that is one thing, and then to go into half time and come out and just not turn up.
Well, we didn't come out.
Just not turn up, and then they battered us for the first 10 minutes of that second half, and I don't know what the instructions are to come out there in that one.
It was really concerning to see that when you consider Port Vale's form, they went a goal down and you thought, okay, now their heads might drop when you consider how poor their form had been going into the game. But we grew weaker. We looked suddenly quite complacent. And okay, Port Vale didn't actually build up any pressure in the lead up to that equaliser. But we just sat back and we didn't see it as a sign to really take control and really keep possession. And that set the tone for the start of the second half.
It did, yeah. I mean, as you know, Jimbo, we had the player event at the club today, and I put that to Cal Naismith. The most disappointing thing about yesterday was we took the lead. This wasn't a game of everyone getting on your backs because we were terrible and we were behind, like on Tuesday night. We took the lead. Surely now confidence should flow. You should play some nice football. They got to come out at 1-0 down, get in behind them, get the crowd going. But there was no urgency, there was no tempo, there was no rhythm, there was no nothing.
Yeah, I don't even think that they've come out. They didn't come to low block it like Rotherham. They played some football, and so there were spaces in behind if we bothered to try and get in behind them. But it just never seemed to materialise unless it was Bramall trying to force the issue. But very, very disappointing start. And when the second goal came, it was no surprise. It looked like it was coming the minute they kicked off.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Still a calamity of errors, really. They could have the 3 or 4 chances to clear that ball and don't. And how many times have we seen that? They just all go to jelly in the box, and just for it to squeeze through there and have a tap in. And they couldn't believe their luck, could they?
I couldn't believe their luck. I don't know about them believing their luck. Yeah, you can't miss, can he? Devante Cole, I've flagged him in the preview, If you don't know who he is, his old man's pretty much famous enough. You don't leave him marked in the box. But
I thought Mengi showed so much promise during our Premier League season in particular. And he's just a shadow of his former self. I know he's had some injury issues, but we keep seeing these major lapses in concentration. I think we sort of skimmed past it, didn't we, when it comes to the first goal, the equalising goal. Positionally, Mengi and Anderson, what on earth were they doing? I'm just lost for words, really. Not only were they the wrong side, they were also nowhere near their markers. There were 2 or 3 players who could have headed in that equalising goal. And then unfortunately, Mengi, that's a really sloppy header back to the Vale player. And then he kind of fails to read the through ball as well. And Vale were in from that moment. And Keeley makes actually a pretty good save, really. And unfortunately, no one's near Cole for the rebound.
And at 2-1, well, obviously then the reaction in the crowd's understandable, but it's not great. I'll say it again. Can we please ditch this "you're not fit to wear the shirt" song? It serves no purpose. Whether they are or whether they're not, they're the ones wearing your shirt on Thursday, and it is not going to get them playing any better at all. And that's how it is. And do you know what? The last half an hour showed it, because we didn't play any better. We just got lucky from not lucky, but we had a good set piece. How it wasn't 3-1, I don't know. I'm pretty sure from the Kenilworth end they've missed an open goal somewhere in amongst that melee. And 3-1, we can definitely all go home, because we weren't scoring 3 yesterday. I didn't think we were scoring 2, but we definitely weren't scoring 3.
Yeah, I mean, they should have pressed home and taken that advantage. I think it was an acute angle from when he hit the ball, but it looks bad because I think it ended near the touchline, didn't it, rather than anywhere near the goal. But yeah, all at sea at that point, just totally lost it. And it was concerning, because we'd seen what had been coming, what they'd come out with, Port Vale, which is overall, like I said at the very beginning, the most worrying thing, because they are adrift at the bottom, 5 points adrift, hadn't scored for that many weeks. It's nearly 2 months of league football and hadn't scored, and then they come on Luton's patch, play them off the park for large portions. I mean, it's a baffling one, that one.
Yeah, I mean, I did reference that they're not as bad statistically as their league position tells us, but even so, you can't be outplayed in that fashion. No one was winning any duels. We couldn't get the ball forward. When it did go forward, it went backwards equally as quickly. Then we started playing with that messing around at the back too slowly when we're 2-1 down, and that's getting people's backs up, because you want a bit of urgency when you're 2-1 down. There's none of that. Finally, we get Clark on and we start to look a little bit better. I mean, Jack said at the end that he wants to work out how we can start games better, how we finish them. Well, it's staring you in the face, Jack, because the same substitution happened in the last 2 games that turned the game around. Maybe start with that rather than make it as a substitution. And we might start these games a bit better, because I'll die on the hill until I'm blue in the face. Those two in the centre of the park cannot play with each other, and they definitely can't do it at Kenilworth Road.
Are you down on the hill because you are blue in the face? Is that?
I'll be blue in the face. I'll be blue in the face if I have to watch it many more times. I'll tell you that for nothing.
No, I take your point. I don't think that Clark was the game changer in this, but he did begin to play balls into feet through the lines in the middle of the park, which didn't happen before.
Clark wasn't the game changer. The game changer was splitting that partnership up. It didn't matter who came on, because it was Fanny who ended up going alongside Liam Walsh. But they're just the same player to me. They're 40 yards from the striker. You mentioned it earlier on. When the ball goes into the striker, we've got no one to pick up the seconds because the midfield is so deep. They are the same player.
I get the impression that Wilshere is a little bit conflicted at the moment, because I think he would like to take more risks. But at the same time, I think he believes in the back of his mind, if I don't play those 2 more defensive midfielders who can look after the ball, screening that defence, I think they're going to look even more exposed. So I think that's what's going on internally at the moment. I think he's worried about our leaky defence being even more porous, unfortunately, if that's possible.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If it's possible, because even with a double shield in front of them, we still can't keep clean sheets. It's, if they don't score, we'll, like you said, we'll gladly assist them. Tuesday night we gave them a goal. Yesterday we gave them a goal, and let's hope Reading don't get more Christmas gifts from us on Thursday night. But you also mentioned it, Jimbo. You do have to give them credit. All right, it's not a fake positive, but it's faint praise, I suppose, because you should always go until the final whistle. Effort is a minimum expectation at any football club, but we do keep on going. We don't necessarily know when we're beat, and we did get a corner. It was perfectly across. We blocked the goalkeeper off for the first time. He was punching everything prior to that. And Mads Anderson's there. I mean, he can't miss. I mean, I am hereby starting the campaign to get Mads Anderson up front, because he's the only bugger who can head the ball in the opposition box.
I don't know how much he knew about it, though, did it? Him and Cal both went up for it for a little while.
Well, it didn't know too much, because it was given to Cal Naismith.
Everyone thought it was Cal to start with, until I saw a replay. And
us in the Kenilworth end knew it was Anderson. They weren't anywhere near it in reality.
Yeah. That's the only thing I can really...
Stick him up front, Jimbo. Here is the campaign, right? We have got a guy who can get on the end of crosses. We've got a guy who's crossing the ball in left, right and centre. He can't defend anyway, because we can't keep clean sheets for toffee. Put him up front. And we might have less defenders at the back then by doing that.
I'm really sorry, Kev, but I won't be signing that petition if you
I'll talk it around after we've stopped.
Might have to involve another cash payment, I think.
I take your point, though. You're sort of at the point where nothing particularly is working. So you're like, well, let's throw a few random...
I'm at the point where I would happily stick you up front. I'm at that point. Anyone who can head a ball in the opposition box can play up front for us.
I'm very disappointed. You keep thinking, I don't know where the goal is. I knew where it was. There was a fox in the box.
Yeah, it was black and white back then as well. We're orange now.
I mean, it has been done before, isn't it? Steve Howard was a defender. I'm not saying he's going to be Steve Howard, but I mean, I don't... It's not going to happen. I'm with Tom.
No, of course
it's not going to happen.
No,
I know
joking.
You're just saying, look, nothing else is working, so throw something else at the problem and see if that works. But
Malcolm McDonald, another famous example.
Absolutely. You're talking yourself into it now. You know it makes sense.
I'm coming round.
You know it makes sense.
Well, he might be on the end of one of Cohen Bramall's crosses at least, because
That's
nobody else is.
That's what I mean. You've got a guy who can head the ball in the opposition box. None of the nines can do it. None of them. They're either too small or Nordos just, he's no good in the air, he's better with his feet.
I mean, against Port Vale, just see the size of them. They were absolute giants, the whole lot of them.
I did see the size.
And then was slinging balls up to Brown. I know, like you said, Tom, that it's not necessarily his game, but that was never going to fly. And then the minute Clark does come on and starts playing to feet through the line, suddenly we get a bit more action going forward, and then we are able to finish the game relatively strongly from from a low bar where we were. But that whole do we have to go through this situation where we have to just experience the first hour of dross before we change things?
And this is what I referenced earlier. Jack is saying, how can we start games the way we finish them? Well, look at the people that are involved at the end, and look at the people that you're involving at the start. They're completely opposite ends of the scale. You've got, if we're kind and we call Bramall an attacking player, he's not. He's a defender who's just very good at attacking. But if we call him an attacking player, you had 6 defensively minded players starting that game yesterday against bottom of the table at home, and you're wondering why you can't attack. It's a numbers game, this thing. 6 defenders to 4 attackers. You're going to do more work around the back than you are going forward. Switch that round, and all of us, or even it out at the very least, 5 and 5. And you might get some joy. We had it with Rotherham. You think, well, they're going to have learned from it, from Rotherham. Port Vale were nowhere near as deep as Rotherham, but by the same token, at 2-1, they had absolutely no intentions of going and getting a third. The time wasting was getting ridiculous. But at no stage really until, well, I don't know what happened with Longwake and the enclosure, but whatever happened, he was hooked 2 minutes later. And then we started looking like a team again.
Just to touch on what you've been saying about some of the game changers, as Nathan Jones used to call them, coming on and looking really bright. I think Kadu has been an example of that, actually, and he's far from the finished product, but he's seized his opportunity, and I think he looks like one of the more promising players in our team who can actually create something. And importantly, he's one of few forward players who really fights for every ball. He keeps going, and in some games, we've lacked that this season, to say the least.
And that surprised me, because whenever Jack talks about him in press conferences, he talks about a lack of confidence with him. I would argue he's got more confidence than anyone else put together.
He was talking about them, but a few weeks ago, it might be a bit longer. Time has flied. There's been so many games. He was talking about him like that back then, but now he's been in the side 2 starts now, hasn't he? I think that's changed.
I never really saw him as a lack of confidence, though.
No, and I mean, he said himself, I think, that he was confident to play on either side wherever he was played. You've made a case a couple of podcasts ago about potentially playing him up the middle as well.
Hey, there isn't a person in this squad apart from the strikers that I wouldn't play through the middle right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Kearley's edging his way forward in my estimations of going up there, because he scored a goal last season as well, which is more than our strikers can do.
I mean, he's trying his best. He has a very high starting position.
He does.
So
he does. I referenced it at the player event earlier on about his starting position. His predecessor, he needed a tow rope to get him off the goal line, and Kearley comes out quite voluntarily. It's only a matter of time. If we're a goal down going into injury time, that fella pops up and shows them how to do it.
Well, have you starting a new campaign now for Kearley up
Not
front?
yet. Not yet. Not until the Mads Anderson one's flopped. Once that's flopped, then we'll go to Kearley, because Shazy can just go in goal. It's all right. Very close to calling him a creative midfielder though, Kearley, because he is very good with his feet.
I love Shay, but I'm not so sure after the Fleetwood Cup game.
Yeah, that wasn't his finest moment, was it? That wasn't his finest moment. There's got to be an answer though.
Well, yeah, and I don't think it lies within trying the same things and expecting a different result. It clearly isn't going to work. I mean, you'd highlighted that before with the midfield at least, and when if there's anything we can get out of it, hopefully he's learning these things as he goes along, and then that isn't something that happens again. And now that Clark's back, there's no need to. And I know Fanny didn't start as well, but you don't need to play. For me, you don't need to play Walsh and Saville there when you've got Fanny who's box to box anyway, and Clark who can play in that number 10 role, seemingly better than anyone else at the moment.
You've got Nelson. You're going to have Richards when he's back from tonsillitis. You've got plenty of options to do this. But when Fanny came on yesterday, he was actually carrying the ball. It wasn't all passing. He would carry the ball, commit a man, and then Bramall would have acres of space to then get down that line and get his cross in, because Fanny's committed a man and they're not doubling up on him. To me, it's obvious. When you've got Saville and Walsh in there, They're being overrun by three. Most teams play three in midfield in this league. Up against those two, neither of them have got any legs anyway. I've lost count of the amount of central midfielders that's whizzed past our midfield in recent games. And once that's happened, you're in. I mean, we haven't touched on it yet, so let's touch on that. We're very lucky that it was Shaden Morris chasing the fella down deep into injury time, because if that is Mads Andersen or George Saville, I know he was on the pitch then, the guy's clean through on goal, and we know how that would have ended. But thankfully, Morris had the pace to get back and slide tackle. Otherwise, that could have got even nastier than it did, and you thought the reaction at the end was bad. Crikey, it would have been toxic if that geezer had gone through on goal and scored.
Yeah, it would have it. I don't really necessarily want to be seeing Morris having to be the last man defending back and everything, but it did save us there. And the toxicity would have been bad. I think that it was tempered by the fact that we got the goal, but it still wasn't really good enough. The way that we, went after they scored, the response really wasn't that good. Even though we're talking about we played a little bit better, it wasn't really that cohesive.
I mean, the thing that annoyed me, Tom, was after we equalised, you'd think, well, now we've got a pep in our step. Now we're going to go throw the kitchen sink at them. Not in a way that we were going to risk leaving ourselves exposed at the back. I get that. But at no stage was there any urgency, any tempo, any uplifting thing. Every time the ball went out of play, it had to go backwards before it could go forwards. And you're like, how are we going to win this game from this point? I mean, when did Anderson score? About 75 minutes, something like that?
I think it was the 70th even.
70th minute with 8 minutes of injury time as well. So you've got 28 minutes from there on. Keeper hasn't made a save. For me, those 28 minutes are the most disappointing 28 minutes of the game, because you've got a side there that clearly haven't got much confidence, although they didn't show that they haven't got much confidence. But if they had confidence, they'd be winning games of football. You've got them where you want them now. You've got attacking players on the pitch. Just fizzled out into if he'd blown full time as soon as Anderson scored, it wouldn't have mattered, because nothing happened in them 28 minutes, apart from God knows how many people falling down injured. And the sooner they get physios on while games go ahead like rugby does, the better, because that will just stop in an instant.
Is this a new campaign?
And this is an old campaign that I've been doing ever since I started this podcast. It's a nonsense that you're allowed to just go down and then we have a team talk on the sidelines.
I mean, 8 minutes added on was very light.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
I'm not sure we would have.
Well, we could have had 80, couldn't we? But
we don't need to.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean, though? There wasn't I never left Kenilworth Road yesterday after the equaliser thinking we've had a right damn good go there of getting the winner.
And, Port Vale did retreat. Their heads didn't drop. They did retreat, but they didn't, put 11 men behind the ball.
No.
They weren't tightly packed.
And we should also say the 8 minutes of injury time was against 10 men, because they'd used all their subs and Matey had the slowest trudge off. I mean, someone said on the radio that he moved quicker than George Saville did all day, which is harsh, but
I think it was barely noticeable that they only had 10 men in.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah,
exactly.
There was no it wasn't the Alamo or anything like that.
No.
We weren't pumping balls into the box. At that point, you could legitimately have kept Anderson forward because they weren't attacking. The only time they attacked was when they sprung from the corner that Morris broke. You could have put someone taller up and just launched the ball in and tried to get some. Didn't try that.
Anderson.
Well, yeah.
It's got to be Anderson.
Anderson, Mengi, if it fell to Mengi, he could have stuck it. We've seen that last Saturday. We tried nothing different from 2-2, and it was like, oh, is that it now then?
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking at the time. But I genuinely just think, well, we'll have to settle for that now, unless they, score something from a long throw, which seemed to be causing a little bit of havoc. I didn't see that anything more was going to change that, really. They were calling for a foul in the equalising goal anyway, weren't they? And maybe somewhere along the line, if we were in VAR situation, they might have reviewed it and it might have got to say it doesn't matter.
It's his own man who blocks him off.
We need to
it?
touch on this because for a side as large as they were, I don't know how the protest went on for so long, because it was such a soft.
He was like
collision.
He was trying to get the referee to go over to the linesman, wasn't he? And the referee was like, I'm not going anywhere near the linesman. It wasn't offside anyway. They were calling for a foul on the keeper. It was his own man that stopped the keeper from getting to that. But he was in no man's land anyway. It was almost like we transformed Leyton Orient's one, transported him in for that corner, and he flapped at it, and it was the same outcome, wasn't it?
But either way, we've got lucky with that. We've got arguably lucky with the Leyton Orient one. As good as it is to score equalising goals or late goals like the Orient one, we probably didn't deserve that because we didn't create those chances really. And we're still in this situation where creating anything from open play seems like the hardest thing in the world. It's good that we're scoring from set plays because maybe we wouldn't score at all.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. But yeah, that for me, the last 20 minutes was the most annoying because you must know the importance of a win against bottom of the table. I mean, I referenced it 2 podcasts ago. We're in a run here of 7 games against teams outside the top 10 in the table. This is the time to start winning football matches, and I didn't really get the impression. I mean, Jack made all the subs, and that's fine, but
I thought it was inevitable that Clark would have the same impact that he had at Leyton Orient on Tuesday night. But he was weaving between the lines, as you mentioned, James. But still, there was just nothing really coming from open play. It seemed like our only real route to goal was shifting it out wide, hoping the quality was there on a cross from usually Bramall. And in the meantime, the strikers or the forward players weren't between the posts anyway. It just it was so frustrating to watch.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, Bramall should have had a cross put away, shouldn't he, by Morris, but the defenders just got there just into the second half, and somehow they got a goal kick out of that. I mean, they did turn around at half-time, ref. It was a corner. It's the most obvious corner you've ever seen. But yeah, no, we didn't throw caution to win. I tell you what, Clark did make an impression on that fella's ankle when he flew in at him a minute or two after he came on. He didn't half muller him. I heard the noise from halfway up the Kenilworth end. It's almost like he'd been a bit peed off with what he was watching on the sidelines for 65 minutes, and first chance he got, someone was getting it. And I don't blame him, because in the same situation, I'd have done exactly the same thing. It was almost like he went in to get a reaction from the crowd, to get the crowd going, to get something, something behind him, because that's not a Clark-like tackle. There was a lot of force in that, and on another day, certain referees might have not liked that, given the proximity that it happened to him coming on. But that was it then. Just fizzled out into it was like a firework that had gone off already, hadn't it? It just had nothing left to give.
Yeah, that was what I was feeling towards the end of that game, because I wasn't seeing anything that would suggest we could unlock them, even though I think that they were unlockable. They were, but we weren't really stepping up the pace and the power and the tempo of it. So, you don't want to think that at home you're going to just settle for a draw against the bottom team, but that's kind of the outcome of it, whether that's the given intention of it. And so you can understand why people are peed off.
Oh yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, that close to Christmas, it's a commitment to follow the team, and that's 2 times this week that we've got little in the way of entertainment. Well, it's not 2 times this week, is it? It's 20 times this season that we've got little in the way of entertainment. 8 wins in 20 league games. There's no dressing that up as good enough.
No, it isn't. And I know that we've talked up the wins when they've come, because you've got to try and enjoy the wins when they are there. But they're looking increasingly like the anomaly, whereas the general level and output is what we've seen in the last week.
I made the mistake of thinking Luton were back after Stockport. I don't know if either of you two did as well. But
yeah, I mean, we put it on here, and people go, "Well, don't get too high." We're like, "No, please just enjoy it." But it does look like, a fantastic day, great result. Looked like things were changing, but then, like I said earlier, this feels like a back to square one point where you're like, what are we trying to achieve, and how are we trying to do it? Because I don't know.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, have we improved from when Bloomfield was sacked to now? We've had glimpses of good stuff, and the results are nowhere near as bad. I get that. We haven't lost too many games. I think it's 2 games under Jack in the league. And, a lot of people make it 3 with Fleetwood, but, the penalties are penalties, aren't they? But 2 games in the league, okay, of course, one of those was an absolute horrendous horror show at Barnsley, and the other one was his first game in charge. The results, in essence, aren't terrible from that point of view. I think it's 10 league games he's managed now. He's lost 2 of them, but we're drawing an awful lot. We're not really going anywhere. We have no identity to our style of play. I think that they want to be a possession-based side, and that's absolutely fine. but we keep on talking about moving the ball quicker, or at least Jack keeps on talking about moving the ball quicker. And to my eye, it's getting slower and slower and slower.
I think in the first, when Jack had that 4 or 5 game unbeaten run after his defeat in his maiden game against Mansfield, I think actually we saw signs of that. The confidence was building slightly. We were trying to play more intricate passes through the thirds. And then especially after Barnsley, the hammering on the field and psychologically for the players, I think we've really looked so nervous and the confidence hasn't been there naturally. And the players are taking fewer risks as well. We're going more direct, I think. And we're seeing less of that intricate play. I think the only two players who seem reasonably comfortable on the ball are probably Saville and Walsh. But, that's also causing us to lack that spark in the final third as well.
I think it's interesting you say that about Barnsley now, because now you look at it with hindsight and how that has probably affected. Because yesterday we were just talking about his side lacked belief. Now, why would they, if they'd gone on a reasonable run in that 5-game period where we were doing all right, but then you perhaps looked at the Barnsley game and got absolutely hammered. I mean, it was 5-0 was a blessing because it could have been a lot worse, the amount of chances they created. And is that why they don't have this belief in them? Because it looked like it.
Do the team not have belief, or do certain players within that team not have belief? Because again, when they come off the bench, there's no shortage of belief that they're going to turn the game in our favour. And okay, I know teams that are ahead will retreat and make it easier for you to play and things like that, like Leyton Orient did. I get that. For me, it's just, was there a lack of belief when all the youngsters went out against Exeter in the trophy? Again, understand that it's not the same as a league game. I didn't see a lack of belief from any of them. I just see this lack of belief from the same old people. Now, I understand they might be low on confidence. They've been around the game. They're old. What age brings you is fear. When you're young, you have no fear, and I get that, and I completely understand that. But that's where we are. Players in this team are starting to fear making mistakes. Now, some of that is down on us. It's got to be said. Some of the reaction to when we concede goals is not good. It's not helpful, and it's not going to get us anywhere going forward. But ultimately, those players have got fear within them. I thought Naismith was pretty good yesterday when you consider the absolute mare that he had on Tuesday night. Would I have played him yesterday? No, I made that point clear in the preview. But once Jack's played him, he's played fairly well, to be fair to him. But you can tell that he's not the same person. He's not that person certainly not that person that left us in terms of confidence. And there were a few others in that side. But then you see the players coming on. You see Fanny coming on and running with the ball and committing men. You see Morris standing his winger up and going past him. Maybe not so much yesterday, annoyingly, but he was there waiting for a tap in from that Bramwell cross. You see the youngsters that come off the bench. They have no fear. They have belief. But these players that Jack keeps starting with, the ones that get us in this mess, that he has to then bring different ones on after 60, 65 minutes, they're not believing in themselves. And nor are we believing in them, quite frankly, now. I think the belief in some of those is gone.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder as well if there's a parallel to be drawn between, if you look at how well Cardiff are doing, they've got a very young side, haven't they? And maybe that's part of it, because, they took a even bigger hammering than we did last season to go down. They were down a long time before us, but there they are, top of the league with a young side, and maybe that's part of it. I don't know if any Cardiff fans out there could suggest why that is, why they're succeeding. But I take your point that we've had some evidence of it in the cup games that a younger side might look to create the chance or bring some fun back.
I think without knowing enough about the intricate details of Luton's finances, I think Cardiff are in a position where they've been able to hold on to a few more of their stronger players from the Championship. But at the same time, I do agree that, it's definitely the players who are coming off the bench who are having an impact. And, it's, I do wonder why some of them aren't getting starts at the moment. However, I think many of them have had starts in patches over the course of this season. And when the chance has arisen to start, they haven't really taken that opportunity. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. But I think what you said there is in fleeting moments. You've got to give them 5 or 6 games to prove themselves in that side. Look at Gideon Kadir, he's come off the bench, he's impacted him. Now he started 2 or 3 games and he's looking like, well, when we're naming the team sheet, he's the first one inked on it, or should be the first, alongside Bramall, who was another one who took a while, but now he's bang, bang, bang. And, I mean, well done on getting the man of the match right yesterday, by the way. It was really difficult to get that one right. You've not nailed it all the time this season, but you got that one right.
Yeah, a blind squirrel finds the occasional nut, doesn't it?
Well, it does. That blind squirrel could have seen that Cohen Bramall was man of the match yesterday. Unlucky with that other free kick, actually. As soon as that foul happened, I was like, this is perfect distance for him.
Yeah, well, you're sort of rubbing your hands together at that point because that's probably one of the best routes to goal we've got. And you're thinking, here we go, it's Cohen Bramall time.
What I love about it is both times Walsh was right there, giving the impression that he was going to get the shot off. Come on, mate. We've seen this film. Toddle off. Leave him to it. We know exactly where this is going.
Yeah,
Cristiano Bramall sticking it in the top bins.
Bramaldo, better?
Yeah, Bramaldo, yeah. I'm all right with that,
yes. Yeah. That. Let's have it.
I can tell you're an author. Yeah.
No, we should be, after he scored that goal, we should be in a position where we're talking more about Bramall because it was a fantastic strike and he was the best player on the pitch. But it's those frailties in the middle part of the game that we've coughed those 2 goals up that we were talking about. Have we learned anything? Are we progressing? And that's the annoying thing because he was really good.
Yeah, I absolutely. We should be shouting about him from the rooftops. And that's why I was more annoyed yesterday than I was Tuesday night. Listen, Tuesday night we were crap as a team. We were absolutely terrible. They've referenced that. They got themselves out of trouble. Yesterday we went a goal ahead. We had the game in the palm of our hands. We had the game where we wanted it and we surrendered it. And that's more worrying for me because everyone can have a bad performance, right? We can have a bad night at the office, and Leyton Orient was a truly terrible night at the office. Think Cardiff away last season, bad. But when you're actually in front, and bearing in mind until the Huddersfield game, every time we've been in front this season, we've won the game with a clean sheet. We know how to win games from in front. Yesterday it was like we haven't been in front for months on it. Yesterday was like I'd have expected them to be when they went in front, not knowing what the hell to do. But they didn't. They were perfectly composed. They just got undone by a set piece.
Yeah, but that's the worrying thing, isn't it? Because, I mean, if they play like that, maybe they played above themselves. I don't know if there's any Port Vale fans, but if they play that for the rest of the season, surely they won't be near the relegation positions.
Well, they don't play against us every other week, do they?
But you can't take where they are now and the run that they've been on and say that there's anything really positive to take from that, except that you can fight and scrap for something. Now that could come good. When if the form ever starts to turn and change, then maybe that turns from scraping draws to getting late winners and stuff. But I think we're a long way from that at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing you can say as a positive is we're 3 points off the playoffs. I think we're all underwhelmed by the season so far as a whole, and we're 3 points off the playoffs. I spoke to Josh Keeley earlier on at the football club, and I mentioned to him, you were in a much more dire situation than this at Leyton Orient last season. And he actually said to me, we're in the relegation zone in November. They made the playoff final. We're in a healthy situation compared to that. For all that the football's not easy to watch right now, the bigger picture is we're right in there if we can find a spark from somewhere.
It's one of the positives of anyone being able to beat anyone in this division in particular. There's I think Cardiff out in front, rightly, and then a cluster of teams probably all the way down to maybe even lower mid-table who could be up in that playoff picture. And we're definitely, as much as we're not playing well, we're definitely in that group. And I think you mentioned Bramall there. I think part of the reason why he's grown in confidence and he's also impressed some fans recently is because he's one of the few players, I think, who has shown a reaction to the crowd being slightly negative. He hasn't gone into his shell. You can see in his body language, he thinks, okay, we're not in a great spot right now. I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm capable personally. I'm going to work my socks off for the team. And he's one of the few players, in my mind, who plays without fear. I think that's a real issue at the moment. I think they all individually and collectively need to overcome that fear. Even if you're not completely happy with the way the crowd treating you or the reception you're getting. You need to galvanise and go out and prove how good you are. Do it for each other. And together, that's how I think the club can break the cycle, the negative cycle that we're in at the moment.
I would agree, because we know Luton fans, we've been Luton fans for a long time. We start winning games of football and it starts flowing on the pitch, it will start flowing in the stands. Stockport was a perfect example of it. It was a brilliant away day from start to finish. We played good football, the fans responded, and the football got better and the noise got louder.
But I think away is a very different animal to home at the moment, and there's that as well. I think maybe the shackles or the fear is less away than it is at home, because yesterday, yet again, we spoke about this many times, how very, very quiet Kenilworth Road was. And Port Vale were probably the loudest fans that I've heard this year come to our place. I would just imagine, listen, I'm in the press box, so I can't do anything about it. But if I was a fan, and you two maybe can answer better, when the Oppo fans are singing about it being a library and stuff, wouldn't you want to be back at them just to like try and prove it's not? It's so quiet.
Yeah, but I think we're not energised, are we? From what we're watching, nothing's giving us energy. And I get what you say, that the away fans taking the mickey. Well, lethargy's got around the whole place, hasn't it? You know, it's slow and ponderous on the pitch, and it's slow and ponderous off of it.
I completely agree, though. You know, in some situations, especially at home, we do need to take the initiative, and we do need to get behind the team without them having to prove to us that they're going to play well today. We need to prove that we are right behind them from the outset. I know there have been so many disappointing games and performances this season already, but I think we just have to try our best to keep instilling that belief and reinforcing that belief in the players, because I think that's the only way things can turn. That's the only way we can break that negative cycle that I referenced earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way I think that it changes without the players having to do anything, isn't it? I mean, of course you want them to be putting on some sparkling football for you to be singing and shouting about, but that's something that can maybe kickstart it if it was a bit noisier. But I don't know why it is.
Well, I think yesterday some of that was down to the team sheet, wasn't it? You know, we expected to see Jordan Clark, maybe even Shaden Morris from the start. You look at the team sheet and most people knew what game they were going to watch. And lo and behold, they watched it. And yeah, there's still no excuse for not cheering and chanting and everything else. But there's only so many times you can go to the well and, you know, come up dry.
Should we give Wilshere the benefit of the doubt and say Clark might not have been 100% to start yesterday?
Absolutely, yeah. I keep on referencing Clark, but you've still got players like Nelson. Morris was on the bench yesterday. You know, someone said to me, I come and watch football and I look down our team sheet and there is no one that gets me off my seat and excites me in that team sheet yesterday. I mean, I would argue Kadir and Ali would get me off my seat when they're at their best. But even so, 2 out of 11, it's not I go back to what I said earlier in the podcast, it's a numbers game. And if you've got more defensive players than attacking players, you're probably going to put up a much better defensive performance than attacking one. Couldn't even do that. But by and large, you're going to be a team that defends better than attacks if you've got more defenders in your team than attackers. You said it a few podcasts ago. No one pays to watch a centre-half have the ball at his feet.
Well, yeah.
And we've got 4 of the buggers with the ball at his feet.
Yeah. And we're seeing far too much of it. Or we're seeing them trying to play these very difficult long balls that don't even come off 50% of the time. I'd love to see the stats on it, how many times we smashed it long and it just didn't stick.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that because invariably the opposition head the ball out for a throw-in. So that's fine because you've got territory. So then what does the throw-in taker do? Throws it 20 yards backwards to where it's just come from. And you're like, well, that's counterproductive if ever I've seen it.
I think actually that pattern of play is kind of another indication that maybe we should try lord us up front from the start in matches, because, okay, we get into these phases where we're playing between the centre halves and inevitably we actually end up being frustrated and going quite direct anyway. And if we're asking Brown or Wells or Yates to hold that ball up with their chest and the defender on their back, I'm not sure they're the players to do that effectively. So maybe that is the way to go. And we can try to include Clark, the likes of Clark and Fanny, to play intricately between the lines when we can as well. And that adds more variety to our game overall. I'm at a loss, really. at the moment.
Well, I mean, that's certainly what fans are saying all the time on our comments on these podcasts, on social media, just in general. Like, what's Nordas got to do to get in the team? That might be one thing. What Port Vale did quite effectively is, I mean, they did play it around quite well, but they definitely did have a tactic of trying to hit it to the big man and picking up the seconds, which they did because we didn't have a midfield that was anywhere near the ball. And maybe that's what Nordas could provide.
I mean, I think you could argue, that was the cornerstone of our success in the Championship, was building from that platform of the chest of Morris and Adebayo a lot of the time. And okay, sometimes it's not going to be pretty, but you have to pick your moments and pick your positions on the pitch in which you're going to play pretty football. And sometimes centre-back, the edge of your own box, is not the position to do that.
Yeah, or this league last time we were in it with Collins and Hilton, exactly the same thing. Yeah, well, you're not going to see Nordos again soon because that was crying out for him to be the first sub yesterday, and he brought Nicky Wells on, and Nicky Wells is his favourite. So, Team Anderson, mate.
You get it started.
If I'm invited back down to training of a Friday, we're having Mads Anderson for shooting practice, I'm telling you.
Okay, then.
We've seen a couple of headers from 2 or 3 yards. I'm not sure about shots, though, from the edge of the box. We haven't seen any of those, have we?
Work in progress, that one. Mengi can show him how that bit's done. Yeah, not a great game, unfortunately. And as a result, not too many correct score predictions. Just Marky Pay went 2-2 yesterday, so well done to you. You'll get 3 points on our leaderboard, which we'll put up in the preview of the Reading game, which will come along later in this week. But we haven't got you on the podcast just to talk football. We have got you on the podcast to talk football, but not just Luton Town on the pitch, Tom, because you've been busy writing a book, and I think we all need a lift. We've seen enough depression and enough horrible stuff on the pitch recently. Let's talk about some good times. 9 years it took from non-league to the Premier League, and well, hey presto, that's the name of your book.
That's it. It only took 9 years. Here we go, straight down the lens. So I started writing this book in February during the Premier League season. I was hoping it would have a fairy tale ending. That wasn't to be. But I was surprised that no book had been published about the club's rise. I know there were a few excellent articles, but I thought it'd be brilliant to capture the feeling and essentially the atmosphere within the fan base over those 9-10 seasons. And essentially, I love talking football as it is, and I thought I'd look back at some of the highlights and compile the story, the best interviews, the best moments, the best chants, and kind of put those into a concise book for us all to read. And there's some great artwork in there as well, great portraits of the likes of Moncur after his goal against Portsmouth, Harford when he's walking down the tunnel after the Oxford League One promotion-winning game, Barkley against Arsenal, and Lockyer against Blackpool was one of my favourites.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your favourite moments were from those 9 years. I mean, obviously, I think mine would be Lockyer against Sunderland. That whole night was just magical, wasn't it? I spoke to Jordan Clark about Wembley this afternoon, and he said he hasn't it's the kind of thing he'll reflect on at the end of his career rather than the middle of his career, and that's absolutely fine. But he also sort of said that it was a brilliant day and everything else. And yeah, I mean, that rise was just crazy, really, wasn't it? Nathan Jones to Graham Jones to Nathan Jones to Rob Edwards and everything in between.
That's right. And I know James has referenced this in the past, but the club came a long way from the dog mess of Ely Way. And I know it's a little bit of an apocryphal story, but, Nathan Jones burning the table tennis table. And I think it's just wonderful to capture those small details about the way in which the club changed, but also preserved its identity, even though that has been called into question and challenged over the last couple of seasons.
I should say as well for the longer term listeners that this is not Tom's first rodeo on this podcast. He was on the audio version only when we were doing that back in the day. We recorded in the Bobbers once, but that was what you reckon 2018?
Yeah.
So that's almost like that's in the thick of this.
We're assuming that's got a paragraph of its own.
Yeah, it's all about it's all about that one day in the Bobbers.
Yeah. But from that period that were we in League Two then? Well, so that it's ridiculous how far we've come from those days in such a short time.
I think we were discussing the title race with Accrington. I think that's what we were talking about.
One that we failed in the end, wasn't it? But thankfully we got promoted. Actually, the one thing that the book will tell us, we're not in too dissimilar a position right now to where we were in League One 6 years ago, in that we just caught fire and got into this position, hadn't we? Whereas, obviously this season we're kind of stuttering in this position. But in terms of league position, we weren't in the playoffs going into December and into that Christmas period. And I think the kind of momentum swing was the Kazenga-Luwa equaliser at Walsall a few days after Christmas, where we looked down and out. We were 2-0 down in that game and we turned it round, and I think James Collins got the other one. They might have scored the other way round, actually. But from there onwards, it was no turning back and full steam ahead.
We were some way into an unbeaten run when Luwa scored that equaliser, but that was a vital goal. And I think beforehand we had a couple of excellent performances. One that springs to mind was Plymouth at home, the 5-1, when Collins scored a hat-trick and just played fantastic football in the first half, especially.
Shinnie was unplayable that day, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And I think that's when we first saw that combination starting to build between Shinnie, Stacey and Collins. And how many times do we see those three combined to score in the second half of the season? I think as my choice of Luton top might suggest, I think 18-19 might be one of my favourite seasons in the book.
Yeah, the night against Portsmouth as well. You referenced the Moncur portrait. I mean, Kenilworth Road noise that night when Moncur's free kick hit the back of the net. The pitch is covered in snow, isn't it? Apart from 6 lines of knee slides that players have taken off all the turf and all the snow and everything. They're nights that in the Rise, even though they're stepping stones towards where we ended up, you never ever forget them. That Moncur free kick is iconic.
Yeah, indeed it was. I mean, it's in a way, it's sort of part of the malaise we've got at the moment, isn't it? Because it was so recent in the memory that those things happened, and the rise was so amazing that the drop off seems like it almost feels longer than the time it took us to go from League Two to the Premier League. I know it isn't; it's 2 years or whatever, but it's been a very difficult period.
And that rise obviously ended with us getting to see a season of Ross Barkley.
Yeah, so the book does include the Premier League season as a lengthy epilogue, and I go into that season in plenty of detail. There's of course so much drama. I mean, especially when you consider Lockyer at Bournemouth, especially, and there's so much to cover, and just some details that you might forget. I think even the bounce back victory, I think some people actually forget. They think more about the Brighton win under the lights when Lockyer walked out, but actually, I loved that Newcastle 1-0 win on Boxing Day. I thought that was one of my favourite days watching the club at Kenilworth Road, and Townsend lifting the Lockyer shirt when he headed in at the back post. I think you remember. I think a month before, Newcastle had been knocked out, but they'd competed really well in the Champions League, and Barkley was fantastic that day. I know he hit the underside of the bar, and I think Brown hit the bar. To think that he was doing that in the Premier League is quite difficult to fathom at times. But some really great memories, even though the season didn't end the way we hoped it would.
Absolutely, yeah, memories that we definitely won't forget. Where can we buy this book, Tom? Obviously, Christmas is approaching. It was a fantastic Christmas present for any Hatter that's in your life.
That's it. So you can buy the book on Curtis Sport, the same publisher that produced Phil Duffy's. They played for Luton Town. They played for David Pleat at Luton Town. Those 2 volumes, which are brilliant books as well. You can find those online. Also, if you follow me on Twitter, I will have some copies to sell in person as well, if you want to avoid the pesky postage.
Twitter handle?
At Tom Caldon, Caldon.
We'll put all that in the show notes, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. If you give us a link to get it as well.
You'll be getting a copy as well. Don't worry.
Thank you very much.
We do like that. So if you are looking for a Christmas present for that Hatter in your life, this book very much recommended, because we all need a bit of a lift, and anything that goes through League Two up to the Premier League is good enough for me, Jimbo.
Yeah, me too. It's nice to reminisce about those very, very recently fantastic days.
There's a bit of conference football in there as well.
Do you know what? I don't necessarily hate on the conference. The conference winning season, even now, I just look back on it and like, wow, we absolutely blitzed that league.
Well, yeah, and we had we just had the best team though, didn't we? And then when we got to League Two and League One, we kind of had the best team as well. We maybe not. Accrington wouldn't say that, but
Nathan Jones would, though, wouldn't he?
He would indeed. He would.
That's included in the book, actually, just reflecting on his back and forth with Coleman towards the end of the season when Jones claimed that we were the best side in the division, and Coleman took it pretty well, to be fair. But then there was plenty of needle in that game when the teams played at Kenilworth Road in, I think it was October in the League One season.
Yeah,
lost 4-1 when the 4-1 when Hilton
scored a hat-trick, didn't he?
When we both went up.
Was that the litter pick game as well?
No,
that was a different one. He does all sorts of things, doesn't he, or Danny Hilton? But
there are some great stories, great little anecdotes in there.
Yeah, some unbelievable memories. Yeah, so get your hands on that book ahead of Christmas and enjoy it because there's lots in there to enjoy. Tom, we've enjoyed having you on the podcast. Thanks very much for coming back on and seeing us. You're going to be with us for the Reading preview later in the week, aren't you? And we'll plug the book in that as well. But thanks very much for your insights and best of luck with the book.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks to everyone who came up to me, whether it was at the game on Saturday or at the Trust event earlier on, telling me how much you enjoy the podcast. We really appreciate all of your support. It's for you guys that we do it for. Just a word of warning, the Reading preview will be out slightly earlier this week because some idiot thought it was a good idea to play it on a Thursday night instead of a Saturday afternoon. But if you've subscribed to our channel, hit the notifications tab and you'll be notified when it comes out. It's probably going to be Wednesday morning-ish, Jimbo.
Yeah, I think so as well. Oh, and well, we recorded the player meeting scenario. What do we call it?
Well, we've called it Behind the Badge, haven't we?
Yeah, the badge. Yeah, so that will be out at some point, but I don't know. This is a very hectic week. So
it is a hectic week. We've got families. It's Christmas. Don't know if you've noticed that, but we will get that on the channel as soon as we possibly can. But those of you who were there, hope you had a good time and the players were open and honest, and that's all you can ask of them. And you'll see that for yourselves. Thanks again to the folks at Marsh House, the new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. Really appreciate your support, guys, as we do to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music. Until next time, where we'll preview a Thursday night game against Reading. From the three of us, it was better, Town, but we can still be better than that. Come on, you Atters.